Guys, what is going on? Welcome so much to another episode of the Michael Lab Show. I hope everyone's doing well out there. Hope everyone is enjoying their Tuesday afternoon, morning, evening. We're back. Back again in the closet like Harry Potter. I kept the door open today. I can look out, see nature if I ever get, cooped up and I want to look at God. I want to see what God's creating out there. What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for joining me again on another episode. I feel like I have a lot to get into today. Let me just pull up. I put all my podcast ideas. If my podcast ideas ever got out to the public, dude, it would be game over for me. Because anything that's like in my head just goes to this note. And this notepad is long now. It used to, if you do anything for almost 3 years, you say things, you do things, you write things down that maybe in the future you won't, you probably won't fully agree with anymore. But if I look at my notepad, I just look at some things. It's fascinating because what it essentially is just my thoughts throughout the last 3 years. And I can see like kind of where I fall on a lot of different things. Everywhere from like, I can see my thoughts on when the COVID was taken off or when it was first discovered here. I can see my thoughts on like the election. I can see my thoughts on right before the election, right after election, the Jeffrey Epstein thing, like anything that was going on in the country. I can look here at this notepad and I can be like, whoa, that was my initial thought. In addition to that, also, I can go back and watch any of the episodes of the podcast that I've done, and I can be like, whoa, that was my thought on that. And I can really take inventory and be like, whoa, do I still believe in that? Do I still think this is true? Maybe I don't think this is true anymore. Anyways, that's that. I do feel like I want to get into a lot of different things today. A lot of stuff's been going on in the world, in the country, in the the universe. I'm recording this on May 20th. It is uploaded May 24th, so I might be lagged out a little bit on some of my topics. I'm thinking about switching that up a little bit. I think I might move my upload dates to Monday. I might even move them to like a Saturday. I'm not 100% sure on that. I kind of like the idea of uploading during the weekday. Most podcasts don't upload during the weekends, but I'll let everyone know on that. Before I get into the episode, I want to say a big thank you to everybody who's been showing the podcast support. If you have been following me on TikTok, I have been uploading a lot of clips on TikTok, and that is a platform that I have not used enough of. I started using TikTok back in like 2018. My original TikTok page I actually don't have anymore. I deleted it for some reason, or maybe I just don't know the password to log in anymore. I'm not 100% sure. But I started TikTok a long time ago. I remember downloading it when I worked at the gym. And when I downloaded it, I think the reason why I got it was because one of my friends at the gym brought it up to me, and I was like, fuck it. Let's get it. Let's see what to do. Let's see how this thing works out. And I think that was like December of 2018. And I uploaded a few times, and then I waited, like a year again. And then right when the pandemic hit, it blew up. Like TikTok is massive. And this is very important. And I have not been utilizing it enough for the podcast. I use like a few clips here and there on Instagram, but that's not really to grow. That's just kind of, I guess it kind of is, but it's mainly for me to get my podcast out there. I put a few things here and there on Twitter, but not really. The biggest thing for a podcast to grow is word of mouth. And also like ratings and reviews. That's why like on Apple, I have like over 725 reviews. Let me look it up real quick. Apple Podcast. The reviews definitely help the most when it comes to a podcast. If I can even get to it. Michael Labs Show. Should definitely say. I don't know why. It's so stupid. My podcast should be higher up in the rankings. But so many of these podcasts pay to be like pushed up in the ratings, which is, I think, bullshit. But that's just my opinions. There you go. Yeah, so I have 725 podcasts, and they have 725 ratings on my podcast. It's a 5-star review. Is my average. So the website's right there. Anyways, I digress. But what I'm saying, what was I saying? Shit, I don't know what I was talking about. Fuck it. Let's just get into some of the topics today that I wanted to get into. The first one I really want to, I guess what I was saying is thank you guys so much for being with me on the journey of doing the show. It means a lot coming from me to you. I just want you to know that I do put in a lot of work. I do think a lot about these shows. I think a lot about what I'm going to say, how I'm going to say it, how I'm going to frame it. But once I say it, I let it rip. I've never edited anything. Everything I say is what I say. Do I necessarily believe it all when I say it? Not 100%. I believe it at the time, but then sometimes I say something like, shit, maybe I shouldn't have said that. But, it is what it is. I think it's good to talk. I initially started this podcast because I wanted to, it helped me get through therapy, honestly. I realized as I was in therapy, I did best when I heard myself talk. So I was like, fuck it, let's do something where I talk and I can hear myself speak. And it helped me navigate a lot of things that was going on in my life at the time I started this podcast. And it's just been helping me ever since. So that's been a huge thing. And to have people, weekly download it from across the world, hundreds and hundreds of people, it's from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for that. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys and girls listening to the episodes day in and day out. So that means a lot for me. I'm going to keep doing it until I don't know. I don't see myself stopping it anytime soon. Unless someone cuts me a fat check. I'm just kidding. But even then, I don't see myself stopping the podcast anytime soon. I think it's important to speak, especially in a world like we live in today where so many things are polarized. I think it's very important to speak about them. I think there's two philosophies on it. There's one where you kind of just avoid issues. You avoid whatever's going on because you don't. I think a lot of people are afraid of saying the wrong thing. I've never been that person. I've never been afraid of saying something that I've never been afraid of saying the wrong thing. I just say whatever I think is right at the time. And, when you take that approach, you win. You win, but you get it. You come out unscathed 50% of the time, but then other 50% of the time you say things that are just, preposterous, the things that don't age well. And it's like, that's the risk you take when you talk. That's the risk you take when you talk in a relationship. That's the risk you take when you talk in a friendship. That's the risk you take when you're talking to your boss, when you want a pay increase, or when you want to quit your job, or if you're doing a interview. That's the risk you take, is speaking. And I think it's very important to not overanalyze everything you think of. Because I truly believe that you have all the answers, and the only way you can figure them out is if you say them into the world. Because then you can get, it's like when you start a business, it's like when you educate yourself. You take practice test before your test, because you know that you don't know everything, and you're going to get things wrong, but you want to test what you know and what you don't know. And I think that's the same thing with thinking. That's the same thing about speaking. Is when you speak, you get things wrong, but that's okay. That's okay to get things wrong, because then you can reflect on it and be like, man, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Why did I say this? Maybe I won't say this again. Maybe I should just keep that thought to myself next time. And I think that's very, very valuable. And that's why I started this. And I hope the people who listen to it understand that. I know there's people who listen to this podcast that don't agree with me on a lot of things, but that's totally okay. That's totally okay. And I don't, there's no hatred towards anybody. I think that's very important to realize that your opinions shouldn't dictate the way you view somebody. Look, listen here, dude. I'm pro-choice. I think women should be allowed to have abortions. And I know this is people say this is a hot topic. I don't think this is a hot topic at all. I really don't, because I don't know. Here's my view. Here's my stance on abortion. Women should have the right to abort a child. That's their human right. And if I was going to really take a stance, I don't think that they should be having abortion after the second trimester. Here's just my thoughts. Once that motherfucker, if you start busting out a belly and I don't know. There's a certain state of like, I don't know if it's after like 4 months, probably after 4 months, 5 months, it starts getting a little weird for me personally. I'm like, hey man, like that's a human now. Like, I understand when it's like a month or 2 months, 3 months, and when it's like a bundle of cells, like that's cool. But like after 4 or 5 months, like we need to start talking about like, let's carry this thing to birth and then let's put it up for adoption. But like the idea that a woman shouldn't be allowed to like abort a child after a month or after a couple weeks is ludicrous to me. That's crazy. I don't understand that. That makes no sense to me. But I can be like, hey man, I guess it does make sense if you're someone who's like a Roman Catholic, or if you're someone who is brought up in a very like faith-driven society. Then it makes perfect sense. Because you believe, your faith has taught you that life is from conception. So if you kill anything from conception, you're murdering a human being. So then I go like, oh, well, that makes sense. I don't believe in that, but that's what they believe. But here's my issue with that also is I don't think that men should be telling women what they can and can't do with their own body. And I think that's like where I take a hard stand on. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think as a man, you go into and I'm going to be very un-PC with everything right now, but when you go into a relationship, or if you're going to have a one-night stand with somebody, or if you're going to have sex with anybody, or let's say a female, because only women can get pregnant. Can I say that now? I'm pretty sure I can say that because that's true. Only women can get pregnant. You most likely are in the power position. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is you are physically capable of removing yourself from that situation if you wanted to, or you're physically capable of saying no. You could beat the shit out of the woman. That's what I'm saying. Or you can, if they try to fight you, you can get them away from you without any foul play. So if you get past that point and you are about to have intercourse with somebody, in my opinion, you just decided to take a risk of bringing a life into this world. And if you don't use a condom, or if there's no birth control used by any party, you have taken the risk to produce a human being. That I believe in that wholeheartedly. So, if that act that you just did leads to a child being put into a woman, if a child develops inside of the partner that you just had sex with, it's up to her now to decide what to do with that child. It's your child, right? But you have decided. You knew what you were doing. And I think someone could say, plays devil advocate here and say the same thing. Well, the woman knew that. But I personally believe, since you are the power, like you are, a man can decide what they want to do and what they don't. I mean, there's a reason. Fuck it. There's a reason why rape happens so much more to women, because men can physically dominate a woman. Like, let's just knock all the bullshit out of the way. Women get raped more than men because men can decide what to do with a woman, and the woman can't do anything or say anything. If a guy wants to rape a woman, they can do that. So my personal opinion is that women should decide what they can and can't do with their body. But I do see there is a weird space, like after 4 months to 9 months, where it's like, hey man, you're just killing a baby now. You know what I mean? Or like, I don't know if I want to speculate on what this guy said, but fuck it. I don't know if I'm going to say it, but that's just my opinion. So when I see these things, but here's also my opinion. I don't think I'm a libertarian, right? So I think the federal government should take their little greedy ass hands out of everything. Because libertarians believe in liberty. I believe in liberty. I believe people should decide. They should have the authority to do what they want to do. They should be their own president. Each person should be their own dictator. They should decide what they want to do and how they want to do it. Okay. When the federal government, I don't know if I want to say this. I'm not going to say this. But this is my issue with like this Roe versus Wade thing is when it comes. First of all, time out here. Let's talk about the idea that something leaked from the Supreme Court is absolutely, unequivocally, the most dangerous thing that's happened all in the past like 5 years, because this is the Supreme Court. These are the people that decide the future of millions of people's lives in this country. And since this country is the biggest and strongest country in the whole world, billions of people outside this country. Because say what you want. If you hate America, if you love America, we are still, I hope, God damn it, I hope, we're still the beacon of light for the rest of the world. And when we do things or when we say things, the world listens. It's not a coincidence that Ukraine has been in a war since Russia, since Biden has been in office. And it's definitely not a coincidence that after Vladimir Putin's not an idiot. Like, let's establish that. This dude's not a dummy. He's a smart motherfucker. And every country was watching us September of 2021 when we unequivocally failed. We had 13 Marines die from an explosion pulling out of Afghanistan. That was an absolute failure on everybody in our government from the top down. It was an absolute failure. And instead of accepting we failed, or instead of saying we should have done this or we should have done that, we placed 100% on the blame on Donald Trump and said that at least this administration pulled them out of Afghanistan. When stuff like that happens, when you can see a tear down a country's fabric, when you see the fabric of a country start tearing down the middle, if you don't think the rest of the world's watching that and going like, hey, this country, America, dude, they can't agree on anything. There's nothing that they're doing right now where people like are happy with the government. Everyone's upset with everything, and they can't even like withdraw. Like the most powerful military the world has ever seen can't successfully withdraw a few thousand troops out of a country that is, barely a country. If you don't think Putin saw that, I was like, whoa, okay, this is easy. Like that's my thing. Like we have done this thing, and I don't know. It's ever since I was listening to a podcast with Dave Smith. He's what a general name, Dave Smith. Like, if I Googled like Dave Smith, I would get like 10 different people. But he's a comedian first. I believe he's a comedian. I think maybe he's not a comedian, but I'm pretty sure he's a comedian first. And he's a libertarian, and he's been on Rogan a lot. And he's kind of the first time I listened to him where I was like, oh, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm a libertarian. Because I always battled. I'm a registered Republican. I've never voted Republican, but I'm a registered Republican. I've always battled with a lot of things in my party. And the biggest one that I've always battled with is, for the longest time, was the war on drugs. This idea that you can and can't tell people what they can and can't consume. I thought that was absurd. As a child, you're told that adults, once you become an adult, you can make your own decisions. Well, you can't, because if you take a substance that the government deems to be illegal, you go to jail for 30 years. But if you take a substance that the government deems legal, but only if the FDA, so if this mob decides that it's okay to use, and then this mob gives it a thumbs up, and then they give it to the drug dealers, aka the doctors, then that's legal. So I got to pay the government for me to use certain drugs, because that's all it is. Like certain drugs, the government, if the government can if they can get their cut of anything, it's okay to use. I mean, that's the honest truth. Like this whole, let me stay on track. But that was one of the things that I was like, No, I don't like that. I don't think you should be going to jail for smoking weed. I don't think you should be going to jail for doing any drug. That's absurd. Because you go to jail if you break a law, and breaking a law is not consuming something. Breaking a law is you hurt another human being, you hurt someone's personal property, or if you take another life, or if you do damage to somebody. But consuming marijuana is not against the law. And then the arguments, well, it's not that consuming marijuana is against the law. It's about to get marijuana into this country. A lot of people die that way. Or like the whole blood diamond thing. You use diamonds, you're supporting an industry, which I've kind of changed my mind on. It's like, well, then don't fucking do it that way. Like, let's treat these African countries like right. Let's give them money. Let's treat them like they're human beings, not treat them so bad that we have a movie called Blood Diamonds made after them. But like, that was my first moment where I was like, oh, I don't agree with this party that I was supposed to believe in. And then another defining moment for me when I kind of was like, fuck the Republican Party, is when it came to like the refusal to give out like healthcare, to people. Because I think as a country we should, or I guess the hypocrisy I saw when Republicans are so anti-socialism, and socialism got tied so much to communism. But then I started noticing like, no, we have socialism in this country. Like, that's what a police department is. It's socialism, right? It's paid by our taxes. Our taxes pay for that. The highway system is a socialist idea. When we all chip in for something, the government takes our money and they finance it to different parts of the country. That's essentially socialism. So once I started realizing, oh, we have socialist ideas in this country, then I was like, oh, socialism isn't bad. It's only if socialism gets put in the wrong hands and it gets pulled out to a certain point. But then the argument would be, well, you can't let like the loony Democrats take control of that, but like it's okay when the Republicans have it. And then like you start getting in, I don't know, then you get into like the military industrial complex, which completely fucked me. That was one thing that I started becoming very what's the word I'm looking for when you're kind of just fed up with something? I started becoming very angry when I started to look into the military industrial complex, and I started looking at like the United States and what the United States is. Like I said, we're a beacon of hope. I believe in that. But we're also the creator of the most wars, at least within the last 30 years. I mean, we kill so many innocent people, and we do it in this idea that we need to stop the spread of communism. But that has been an utter disaster ever since like Nam or Korea. Like, we went to a war for no reason with Vietnam. It was an absolute failure. We bombed the shit at Cambodia because Richard Nixon believed that it was being used for a pathway to put guns in like the hands of the communist leaders in Vietnam. And it was an absolute failure. Or then you have George Bush going to war with a country that had nothing to do with 9/11, or that didn't have WMDs, Iraq. There was no reason to be at war with them, and that's unequivocally true. There's no reason to go to war with that country. Everyone knows that. No one would deny that now. Even soldiers, I've talked to veterans who go like, yeah, we shouldn't have been there. And then you have people in the top offices who literally died knowing that they were lying the entire time, but they couldn't tell the public. And then, so you go to war with the entire country, and you only go to war with them because you need the oil, right? That's essentially what you're doing. And then you give weapons to Saudi Arabia to murder Yemen because you need the fucking oil from Saudi Arabia. So now you're strapped down to like this dictatorship in Saudi Arabia that kills journalists, beats women, cuts heads off of women, and doesn't let women drive. So you're the United States who believes in equality, but then you're giving a shit ton of weapons and giving your money directly to countries that hate women, that don't even consider them a human being. Like, what are you talking about? So like once like the cracks started slipping and I started seeing like the hypocrisy of everything, I was like, oh no, 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 this is all rigged. It's all a game. It's all a nonsense game that we're supposed to believe, that we're supposed to say this guy's right, this guy's wrong. But then I was like, wait, no, none of this is right. None of this is wrong. It's all a circus act. You know, when you have a guy like Barack Obama was, I mean, honestly, I wish we could have a guy like that to be president again. But even him, like there were so many things that he promised that nothing. I mean, the war did not end in Afghanistan. He killed more people in his presidency in Afghanistan than Trump or George Bush or Joe Biden did. He killed so many innocent lives, you know, and he took down Osama bin Laden, but then we still were at war with Afghanistan, which no one understood, because the whole reason why we went to war with Afghanistan was because of 9/11. But then once we killed Osama bin Laden, I think like in 2009, we were still over there. And we're over there because of minerals and political bullshit, and we need their gas. And like, you know, is it a coincidence that once we pull out of Afghanistan, oil goes up? Or is, you know, there's just so many things that made me just very angry with the system. You know, then you fast forward to 2020 or 2016, and, you know, you have Donald Trump. He's put in office, and he's just completely bad-mouthing the entire establishment. He's calling out the military-industrial complex, which basically what the military-industrial complex is it's a collection of, it's basically designed to make politicians rich as fuck. So you have companies like Raytheon Technologies, you have companies like Lockheed Martin, Airbus, Boeing, these companies that develop weapons, like heavy armed weapons, machine guns, tanks, massive deadly weapons. And basically, when you develop these weapons, millions and millions a year, hundreds of thousands a month, they need to go somewhere, right? If you're going to have a business, it needs to sell its product. Well, if you're going to have these companies and you don't have war, you're not making money. But these are publicly traded companies, so they need to make money, right? They need to make money. So what do? You need war, so let's make war. Let's go to war with Somalia. Let's go to war with Libya. Let's go to war with Yemen. Let's go to war with Iraq. Let's go to war with Afghanistan. Let's go to war with Vietnam. Let's go to war with Korea. Let's go to war with, instead of going to war this time, let's give billions of dollars of war equipment to Ukraine. Let's do that. And let's completely ignore Donald Trump, who's saying we need to negotiate with Putin. But apparently that's not what we do. We should be negotiating with him, but we're not going to do that. Joe Biden refuses to talk to him, which is crazy, because when he has like his hand on the nuke button, you should talk to that guy. Hey man, can we just have maybe you can have this part of Ukraine, or hey maybe if Putin, Zelensky, and Joe Biden, terrifying that would be Joe Biden, all sit down in a room, maybe we could talk this thing out, because while you guys are all measuring your dick sizes, innocent people are dying by the thousands every single week. Like, innocent people are dying, and I don't know what you're fighting over. I don't know what this is, but I do know a lot of people are dying. Meanwhile, there's no open dialogue between Vladimir Zelensky, Vladimir Putin, and Joe Biden. But there should be. And fucking Trump is screaming that, but no one wants to listen to him because he's a bad man. Like, Trump was written off as this fucking lunatic. And don't get me wrong, he has a lot of issues. He created this whole inflation bubble with giving direct checks to people. You know, he's done his fair share of division in this country. But there's just things that, like, we need to listen to people that maybe we don't like, you know, and I don't know. What am I talking about? I don't know. It's just weird. But let's get off the politics shit. You know, I feel like I always end up down that road, and I think it's because I do listen to a lot of like podcasts with different kind of characters on it, and I do end up in that world a lot. maybe look, I fucking got a DoorDash order. Like, no man, $4.50 for 2.8 miles. That's a pretty good order, but I'm not gonna do it because I'm currently doing a podcast and I was paused, but I still gave me an order. That should not be possible. That should be impossible. But I got a bunch of other things I want to talk about. You know, silly things, jokes. Some of it's not jokes. Okay, let's get into this because I haven't talked about this since it happened. Oh fuck, I'm gonna shit. I was deeply, disturbed, and it kept me up 3 nights in a row. I couldn't sleep after the incident in Buffalo, New York. I couldn't sleep at all. And I don't know, a lot of it has to do with, it was like an accumulation of a lot of things. The biggest thing is I've been listening to a lot of Jordan Peterson, and he was talking about evil in the country, in the world. And he said a quote that really stuck with me. He said, if you don't think school shooters keep tabs on other school shooters, then your ignorance is getting the best of you. Basically what he was saying is, if you don't think these most evil people in the world aren't trying to one up each other, then you're crazy. If you don't think serial killers pay attention to other serial killers, you're nuts. And when he said that, I was like, fuck, man, is that true? And then and I've also been watching Peaky Blinders lately, which is a fucking brilliant show, but it's a very violent show. And, you know, I watch it at nighttime and it makes me a little anxious. It makes me go, there's a lot of death in it, a lot of killing, a lot of like violent murdering too. If you've seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I think when I combined what Peterson said and with this TV show, and then I watch this shooting take place in Buffalo, where this white male who is clearly a white supremacist, he hates black people. I mean, there's no denying that. His family were full-blown racist. They thought black people were less than them. And I ended up watching the video. I could only watch half of it because it made me sick. Like, it made me not feel good. And it was hard to watch. Especially at the beginning when he's in the parking lot. But it's like a car accident, you know? You see a car accident, you still look. And what disturbed me the most is there was a video, a photo of the gun, the assault rifle that this guy had, and he had the name of Dylan Roof on it. And I don't want to get this wrong. I'm pretty sure Dylan Roof was the guy who shot up Stoney Douglas. Was that the guy? He was the guy who shot up Charleston shooting in Charleston, South Carolina. He died 2015. No, he's still alive. Was it him or Nicholas Cruz? I think Dylan Roof is the guy who had his name was on the assault rifle. And this shooting very much, it fucked with my head for a while because we live in a country that is so divided right now. And we live in a country that has an issue with, there's a lot of race issues. Race relationships are not in a good place. And I'm not speaking individually. I'm speaking throughout the country. And it's been brought to my attention more living out in Roanoke, because I see a lot of Confederate flags. I see a lot of people that I'm judging to be people who, maybe I shouldn't do this, but essentially what I'm saying is that Buffalo shooting fucked with me hard. And I talked to Taylor about it because, like, there's this, we need as a country to, we can't, that stuff's never going to go away, right? Like, those shootings are never going to go away. You know, like, you can, this was a white man who shot 10 African Americans for no reason. It was just fucking murder. He hates black people. He killed them. And then you have the incident in Wisconsin where the black gentleman took a car and ran over a bunch of people in the street. Just ran over them and killed them all. They're both domestic terrorism attacks. But whenever incidents like this happen, you just get to a point where you go like, fuck, man, like, is this thing ever going to work out? Like, are we ever going to be able to come to a point now where we all love each other again? And I don't know if it's possible, man. And then it makes me sad. It makes me upset. It makes me angry, because that's not the people that I know. Like, I don't know. Fuck, I don't know. I think I'm talking myself into a hole here, but shit like that is completely unacceptable. And I get scared that it's never going to stop. In the same way that COVID's never going to go away. And I think, how do we deal with that as a country? I don't know. I don't know how you deal with it. You know, some countries just eliminate the other human, you know, the other culture. They just kill them. You know, they just get rid of them. Like in China, they don't like Muslims in the western part of China, so they have concentration camps and they put the Uyghurs in them and they just eliminate them from society. Do you have a civil war? Like, how do we come out of this situation? And I just don't know. And then you have these fucking incidences where your president of the United States of America goes up and just calls Donald Trump King MAGA, and he says shit like the Ultra MAGA is the most violent group of people we've ever had in this country. It's like, that's not true, though. Like, you know that's not true, but you're saying it, but you know that's not true. And you just kind of get to this point where it's like, is there a solution to this? You know, I would never understand what it feels like to be a black American and in this country. I don't know. I don't know what it feels like. And all I can do is listen. And all I can do is read. And all I can do is listen to like music and listen to real lyrics of people like Kendrick Lamar or J. Cole saying things. And like, that's all I can do. And I think that's what upsets me the most, is that's all I can fucking do. That's all we can all do is just listen. And like, but then shit like that happens. It's like, damn it, dude, that's not enough. It's not enough, you know? And it's like, but how do you stop that though? Like, how do you stop that shooting? I don't know. You know, but then these people say shit. They go on Twitter and they blame Fox News. They blame Tucker Carlson. It's like, what about it's just a fucking asshole of a racist human being brought up in a racist family? You know, maybe that's it. Maybe it has nothing to do with Fox. Maybe it has not. And it's like, because we go after Fox and because we go after Tucker Carlson, we go away from the main issue where it's like race relationships. Like, we need to have uncomfortable conversations. I don't know, that shooting fucked with me hard. It made me sad. It made me emotional. It did not make me feel good. I couldn't sleep for like a week. I mean, I'm looking at my bed right now, but I went to bed at 9. I woke up between 9 to 5:30 because we get up at 5:30 every day. Like, I woke up 4 or 5 times, and I just thought about my life, and I just thought about losing everybody. Like my dad and my mom, they go to the grocery store together, you know, and someone just walks in and blazes them down. And then there was that grocery store shooting out in Colorado, I believe, and it's like, you can just lose everything like that. And that scares the shit out of me. And I think the first time in my life where I actually started like having like existential dread about that. Like, holy fuck, I could just lose everybody. And that's outside of the Buffalo shooting. This is just in general, where I was like, oh my God, is this what it means to like get old? Where you start like getting scared? Like, I was getting scared, dude. It was a weird feeling. I was like, I love these people so much, but like loving people is dangerous because if you love somebody, you lose them. And that messed with me. I didn't like that. I did not like that thought. I did not like that feeling. But then it kind of brought me back to like when I had Riley, I loved her so much, and then she died. And she died very unexpectedly, and I never expected her to die. No one expected her to die. She was so young. She was like 3 years old, and she died from the first time we noticed she wasn't feeling good to like the day we put her down. It was probably 5 days, probably a week, maybe 2 weeks, but I think like a week and a half, 1 week to 2 weeks, something like that. And then after like a year went by, I went like, oh, okay. Or 2 years went, probably a year. No, it's going to be about 2 years once May comes around. May 31st, we lost her. And May 31st is Memorial Day, so it'll be 2 years here soon. And I was like, oh, that's what it means to love somebody. Because since I loved her for 2 years, and since I was able to create those memories, I have those forever. And like that pain that you feel when you lose somebody can never overcome the memories that you have with them. And once I told myself that a couple of nights ago, I was able to get back to bed. I was able to relax. I was able to wake up and get on with my life. But it is a scary thought that everything you love is going to be taken away from you because things die off and things go away, and it's like there's nothing you can do about it. So like when the Buffalo shooting happened, I just thought about that. I was like, those people have lost a mother and a father, a son and a daughter, a husband and a wife, a cousin, a grandpa, a grandmother, an aunt and an uncle, because some fucking racist asshole with an assault rifle decided to go to a neighborhood where he knew a lot of African Americans lived. 71% of the people that lived there were African Americans, and gunned them down like they were fucking animals out in the woods. And that did not settle well with me, as it shouldn't. It never should. That fucking, it's unfortunate, to say the least. I don't know how you fix it. I don't know what you do. All I can think of is there's at least 10 families out there right now who are never going to get over it, as they shouldn't get over it. And I go grocery shopping today, and I just think about that. I think about those people. They went grocery shopping, probably having a barbecue that night, getting food for the family for that week. Who knows? They take a bullet through the head and they die. And I don't know. I don't know what the proper response is. My first response isn't to start blaming everybody. My first response is fuck. I don't know. Because that is something that nobody should ever have to go through. No family should have to go through that. No, and nobody should have to ever go through that. And the fact that happens, I don't know. It fucked with me for a while. Yeah. What else? How are we doing on time here? 45 minutes. One other thing I want to get into, just shortly, is autism. I'm going to tell you guys something that I've never told anybody ever before. I've told Taylor. I might have told my parents. I think I might have told my sister. But when I was in therapy about 2 or 3 years ago, I had a therapist she was a brilliant therapist. And we first started talking, and, I communicated with her. I talked to her a lot. She helped me a lot. She got me through a lot of things. As time went on, I would say about 3 months into it, I've always been interested in autism, in Asperger's syndrome, which we don't use anymore. But I've always been interested in it, which is an indicator. I had friends that were on the spectrum. I've always got along with people on the spectrum better than neurotypicals, because what you find a lot with people who are not on the spectrum, so neurotypicals, is they have a ability to lie. This is just my experience. Whether like flat out lie, or if they're not flat out lying, they just, say things in a certain context. But autistic people, at least in my experience, don't lie. So you get a very honest opinion. And sometimes they upset people, but that's okay, because the truth is always the truth. And the issue with the truth is sometimes it makes people upset, but a lie will delay someone getting upset. And when they are upset, it makes it 10 times worse. But I remember talking to her, and we had great conversations. And one day I came in the office, and I was just talking to her. She just kind of stopped me out, She just kind of stopped me in the middle of the conversation, and she asked me, she said, "Mike, have you ever considered taking a autism test? Have you ever considered maybe that you're on the spectrum?" Because I told her about a lot of people I know who are on the spectrum, and how, I struggle a lot with friendships. I don't have that many. When I do have them, I don't know what to do with them. And I struggle a lot with talking to people. I struggle a lot with a lot of things, like expressing my emotions, fully understanding people. And so when she asked me that, I was like, it was kind of a defining moment for me. It's like, no, I don't. I never actually thought about that. But the more I think about it, I go like, huh. And that was kind of that, and then she brought it up again about a month and a half later, and I never went on with it. I never took the next step. Because one thing you got to know with autism is, if you do decide to test yourself, or if you do decide to take a screening, it's expensive. It's thousands and thousands of dollars, and you got to wait. I would say the whole thing takes about 8 to 12 months. So it's not like a process where you get tested like that. When I got tested for ADHD, it took a month. I had to set up a doctor's appointment, and then they took a couple of tests on me, and they diagnosed me with ADHD. And they gave me Adderall, which I took for about a year, and I stopped taking it because it made me depressed and angry, and not angry, but it made me depressed, and it made my world go from the rainbow to everything was just black and white. I didn't like that feeling at all. Sorry, 1 second. Let me just see how the stock market's dying real quick. Nice. Awesome. We're losing so much money. That's cool. So I went through this process with ADHD, and I got diagnosed, but I never went through this process with autism. And I think before she really said that, I told her I was reading a book all about autism. It was called books about autism by autistic authors. That's what I need. It's one of the most popular ones. Nope, not that one. Oh, The Curious Incident. Oh, Neurotribes. So I read this book called Neurotribes by a gentleman who is on the spectrum. His name is Steve Silverman. And I was actually going to have him on the podcast, but he never got back to me. But he's a sweet, sweet guy, very nice guy. And he's also gay, which I don't know why I told you that. Doesn't really matter. But it was a great book, one of my favorite books of all time, and it basically kind of went into autism. And I was really interested in it for a while, and then I talked to my therapist. So I'm not diagnosed with autism. Um, I feel confident to say that I'm somewhere on the spectrum, but I'm not 100% sure. And if I am, it's not a huge deal to me. Some people who get diagnosed with autism, it's a huge deal for them because a lot of the things that they've struggled with in their life, they have considered it to be anxiety, or they considered it to be depression, or they considered it to be blah, 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 and they kind of put it off in different things, but it's autism. And, sometimes people just want an answer in life. And if you can find an answer and autism is your answer because that's what it is, that's what you have, it's freeing. It makes you feel good. For me personally, if I was autistic, it wouldn't change me as a person. It wouldn't change because I have never, the things that put me on the spectrum possibly wouldn't be things that I would like make connections and be like, whoa, that's it. That's awesome. Now I know. It doesn't really impact me that way. I know people in my life that it does impact them a lot though. And that's to each their own, but not for me. So basically ever since then, I've been obsessed with autism. And so Taylor and I, we sat down and we found this show on Netflix called Love on the Spectrum. And what is this show, you ask? The show is basically about autistic people trying to find a partner, trying to find somebody to, I get essentially date. And it was such a cool show. And it was very impactful for me because, just because you're in a spectrum doesn't mean you don't have the ability to love. And I think autism is a special neurological thing because people, when you think of autism, you think of I Am Sam. You think of somebody, a guy. First of all, you think of a dude. You always think of a dude. You don't think of women as being on the spectrum. Taylor wrote this brilliant paper one time about women on the spectrum, and there's a lot of irony there, but she wrote this paper and it was an amazing paper, but a lot of people don't think of women as being autistic because a lot of the characteristics that are picked up in the medical world to determine if you're autistic are characteristics that are out of the ordinary for men, but are normal for women. But a lot of people assume that autistic people are like I Am Sam. You drop popsicle sticks and you know how many popsicle sticks there are. You're repetitive in your motions. Like you're barely audible. You can barely talk. Like, yeah, that's autism, but that's not the spectrum. That's why it's a spectrum. So it's always been a class of people. And like, people say shit like this now, like all of us are a little bit on the spectrum. It's like, hey man, don't say that because it's not true, first of all. And second of all, by saying that, you're kind of saying that like these people don't matter. Like that's the issue with like all lives matter. When people say all lives matter, it's like, yeah, they do matter, but by you saying that, you're refusing to believe that like the Black lives matter as well. It's like your protest is a protest against their protest. Just say if Black lives do matter and you believe all lives do matter, you should be able to say Black lives matter because they're part of all the lives. So don't say all lives matter. Say Black lives matter. They do matter. You fucking dummies. I hate when people say all lives matter. I'm like, hey man, you do realize like your little chant is a protest against what they're saying? Fucking dummies. Can't stand that. So there's always kind of been this discussion in the ether about, autistic people. And no one's been able to understand them. And I started dating Taylor, and she works directly with autistic people. That was a job she had for a long time. She worked with people who were very low functioning and very high functioning. And I know we're not supposed to say low and high functioning anymore. We're also not supposed to use puzzle pieces anymore. But I always felt like there needed to be something where people realize like, hey, not all autistic people, like if you're autistic it doesn't mean you can't live on your own. It doesn't mean you can't have a relationship with somebody, wink, wink. It doesn't mean that you can't get a job, even though autistic people have the highest unemployment. I think it's like 65. Like, what is the unemployment numbers? Unemployment for autism. Yeah, unemployment among those with autism is about 85%. This statistics means that roughly 2/3 of people with autism are not working. In general, those with autism had lower unemployment rates and higher social isolation rates than people with other disabilities. And there's different jobs now where you can there's different like websites now where they can, if they basically hire, it's a job where it's like autistic friendly. I mean, you got to think, if you're on the spectrum, the whole process of getting a job is almost impossible. The idea of like having an interview is almost impossible. The idea of like following a structure is almost impossible. There's a lot of things that make people on the spectrum, and they're just not compatible with the modern day of working. But basically, this show on Netflix, and I'm going to end the show out with this, is incredible. I think people need to watch it because I think it allows people to really understand what autism is. And these people can have relationships. It's hard, don't get me wrong. It's difficult. But just because someone's on the spectrum doesn't mean they're not a person. It doesn't mean that they're like incapable of doing shit on their own. Same thing with like people with Down syndrome. It doesn't mean like if you have Down syndrome, it doesn't mean like you can't do shit on your own. But it's a really important show. And they're doing one now in the US. The seasons are out now. Taylor and I watch them every night. And I cry every single episode. I cry because I always cry when the parents talk. Because when as a parent, I'm not a parent, but as a parent, when you have a child, the moment you have a child, I assume that all you want to do is to protect that child, and you want to give them the tools and the knowledge so they can go out and build a life without you. I'm assuming that's what a successful parent wants. That's what a parent wants from a child. They want a child to be able to build a world around themselves that excludes their parents. Like, their parents have nothing to do with it. That's what I want as a child, or as a parent. If I had a kid, I would want them to teach them everything that they need to know to go out into this world and be successful as fuck. That's what I want as a parent. And I'm not a parent. And I might do a podcast where I get into like what I see my future as being a parent or not being a parent, because I think that's something that I've really changed on as I gotten older. But like a lot of people who have children that are on the spectrum, those thoughts go out the window, because depending on where your child is on the spectrum, high or low functioning, once again, we're not supposed to use those terms, but just for this podcast, I will use those terms. Your expectations of them, doing what neurotypicals do goes out the window. You kind of get to the point where you just go like, I hope my child can like survive. I hope my child one day can go to the grocery store and go grocery shopping and be able to get in and get out. I hope that my child one day can go to school and maybe be a mainstream student. So when you watch this show, the parents, man, when like the child gets a second date, the parents just lose it. They start crying because for the first time in that parent's life, they go like, whoa, maybe my child won't need me forever. Because the scariest thing, what kept me up all night in that bed, was this idea that one day no one's going to be around and it's just going to be me. And that, my friends, scared the shit out of me. And it's got to be so scary if you're a parent with an autistic child that you know that you're going to be dead one day. And when you die, your child doesn't have the life skills to survive. So they immediately go into a home that assists them and everything to just get through the day. I don't know. That scared the shit out of me. But the show's really good because it teaches neurotypicals to start understanding people on the spectrum. Starting to understand that these people are normal people. And they are not different. They're odd, right? They're weird. It's a common thing that people call autistic people is a weird, but anyways, it's just a really good show, and I can only recommend it so much before people tell me to like shut up. But if you have time at all this weekend or this week to watch anything, I think you should go and watch. Love on the Spectrum. and it will make you feel good. It's a show that you watch and it just makes you feel good inside. But that's my 2 cents. And you guys don't have to listen to me. But what I do know is that I'm very grateful for everybody who listens to this podcast. And yeah, I'm very thankful to have everybody that listens to it in my life. And I hope you guys have a great week. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I hope you guys enjoy your Memorial Day or Labor Day. I don't know which one's coming up. I should probably look at it. I'm going back to visit my family on the 30th. I'm leaving. I think I'm leaving next Thursday or next Friday, maybe. Maybe Thursday we're leaving. We're going to be there for the weekend and probably come back that Tuesday. So I'm excited to see my family again. You know, I miss seeing them. I miss having them around. I did realize that I don't talk to any humans ever besides Taylor because I don't work. I just DoorDash. So I literally don't have any communication with anybody ever. So that's kind of odd. I'm still applying for jobs. I had to make a personal website for my application. So we've been doing that. I should be landing a job here probably within the next 2 or 3 months. This is a goal at least. Then I can get off the dashing life because fucking gas is so goddamn high. I mean, I'm still making money, but like, Jesus Christ, gas is fucking expensive. But yeah, guys, that's been it for me. Thank you guys so much for listening to episode 257. I'll catch you guys in episode 258 of the Michael Lab Show. Peace out. See ya. Thank you so much for listening. Follow my TikTok. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Thank you.